President Biden and Vice President Harris are being briefed on the latest life-saving preparations for Hurricane Milton as we speak. And we'll continue to monitor them and bring you any developments out of that briefing. Meanwhile, Vice President Harris attempting to separate herself from Joe Biden, but she's having trouble explaining just how she's going to do that.
Well, if anything, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Not a thing. Not Afghanistan, inflation, immigration, the list goes on. Well, she had time to prepare for the second go around with that very same question, and still she struggled to make her case.
You are a member of the President administration. Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be, and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I noticed.
And so that would be one change in terms of, but also I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
Here's why I found this so curious, Harris. CNN had a sentence that stood out to me. Internal Harris campaign research on the presidential debate found that one of the most popular moments for the vice president was when she said, "Clearly, I am not Joe Biden." If that's your most popular moment, why don't you hone in on that and separate yourself?
Well, and she said, "Clearly, I'm not Donald Trump." So what we want to know is not who she isn't. We want to know who she is. That's the question now. How are you different from the last 3.5 years, which people have said in the aggregate across the nation, no matter how they vote, they're not happy with the current circumstances under this leadership. So how is she going to be different? This ought to be like, and you've worked in an administration and a campaign. That's like question one. What do you want your legacy to be, Ms. Harris? Like, how do you want to be different? And then you fan out with examples of how you're going to change things. Either she doesn't know or she really wasn't in all those rooms he said she was in making those big decisions. And she can't speak on the current policies because she doesn't understand them. I don't know. All of it is embarrassing. I'm not Joe Biden or Donald Trump. That's what she said.
Dr. Siegel, the polling before Joe Biden dropped out was that he was the least popular president since Jimmy Carter. And then you look at Afghanistan, which was a debacle, and you look at inflation and the legislation that led to that. You can't think of one thing you'd do differently?
Well, you can, but I'm thinking that maybe she doesn't want to come out and say it. For example, people know that she may destabilize the Middle East even further.
Yeah.
They know that she's not going to be tough on Iran at a time when Iran is attacking Israel. Everyone knows that she's not going to be tough enough on the border at a time when people are continuing to fly across the border, and we have a public health emergency in the United States because of the border. People know that about health care, she's going to further weaken the free market system under health care. So we know. So if she mentions those policies and distances herself from Biden, she'll be even more unpopular, and that's why she's not doing it.
Emily, and last night, going on late night television, we talked about this yesterday, the comedy tour. It wasn't just a comedy tour. It was drinking a beer. And I can just see the Trump campaign after this hurricane with an image of her drinking a beer and then the devastation that is wrought upon these communities. And the side-by-side is not pretty.
A perfect illustration of how seriously they take Americans' plights and suffering, which is not at all. And not at all do they take responsibility or accountability for that. For her, for that answer that she wouldn't change a thing, not only is it such a punch in the gut for Americans who have suffered during these 3.5 years, but I think about how, I had more extensive training as an NFL cheerleader with how to pivot, how to get out information that reflects positively, how to make everyone leave the room feeling better. And my point is that why didn't she say, while I agree with Joe Biden on all of his policies, I would certainly have changed the disastrous and deadly effects. I would have changed that 13 service members lost their lives. I would change those that have become unemployed, that are suffering under high inflation. It's like, make yourself human, sister, please, for a second. For a second, think beyond your own hubris, because that's what it was, by the way. It's her, how she is. I'm not Biden. I'm not Trump, right? She's always reminding us what she is, only in the office she occupies, and then who she's not, because it's from a place of snark, it's a place of ego. It's not actually a place of compassion or intelligence.
Carly.
Yeah, well, this question that she was asked yesterday is very similar to the first debate question when she was said, are you better off? Do you think Americans really are better off now than they were 4 years ago? She didn't have an answer then. And it's shocking that she still doesn't have an answer. Because, Emily, you outlined one. I have another. All she has to say, picture this, is the country is more divided than ever before. And I want to reset the tone and really be a president to all people. And then she
Are
could
you
say,
running?
Because
that was good.
Hang on. She could say something like, Joe Biden would be the first person to tell you that I am of a younger generation, and then everybody laughs. So I'm going to hone in on what young people really want when it comes to affordable housing, health care, and food. And then be done.
You're hired.
I mean, that's it.
I love how you took Biden out.
You're hired.
He'd be the first to say that you're younger.
Joe Biden would be the first person to say it.
Good messaging from Carly Shimkus. Let's hope Kamala is not watching.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.